Warning, this podcast contains themes of extreme violence and murder. Subject matter may be offensive to some listeners. Discretion advised.
Welcome to another episode of Evil Transgression, your homicide headquarters here in podcasting. I'm Josh, and with me as always, Dustin and Rex.
What's going on?
Hey, what's up?
How are you guys doing?
Great.
I'm a little nasally.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's how I was a few weeks ago.
It's that time of year.
You got the vid.
No.
All right.
No fever.
That's good.
No fever. Did hear that the best way to test for COVID is something they do in China. I don't know how true it is, but it's an anal swab.
Huh.
They don't do the up the nose. They do the up the butt test.
Interesting.
I heard you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
Just sticking your finger up your butt and smelling it. If you smell it, you're good to go.
Yeah.
If not,
If you don't smell it, you probably have COVID.
Yes.
Wow.
do you know that?
No, but thank you for informing me.
Now we have our own self-test. Approved.
It's free.
Yeah. So what have you guys been up to?
Nothing.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's usually your answer. Nothing.
I mean,
Well-
work.
And how's that going?
It's work.
Working late again or long hours?
Don't say you're working late, because I drive by your house.
Any sound like 4?
Yeah.
On Mondays.
And
the only
Tuesdays.
day. No.
And Wednesdays and Thursdays I see you there.
You're a bullshitting liar.
Nope. You just like to lie and come in like, oh my God, I was working so late. Got off at noon.
Whatever.
What about you?
Well, I do have one thing to say. So, a couple weeks ago, I thanked Bulldog Builders for this studio. The person I should have mentioned first is Stacy, because it was probably half of this is from her 401k loan that she took out just to get us down here. So, yeah, thank you, Stacy.
Stacy, hooking us up with the studio.
Yep.
That's a true fan.
It is. Yeah.
When they take out their 401k just so we can have a podcast.
So,
I've just been playing Warpath on my phone. I'm going to try and get us a sponsorship.
nice.
You're a nerd.
They're got to give a shout out to my dudes in DMR and the Demolitia.
Josh has his own crew.
I do, man. We're a family. But
They all have like cool names too.
Yeah. With some names.
hey, and they listen to the podcast.
Do they?
Ooh,
They
even
do.
better.
So keep talking trash. Today's episode is sponsored by the patronage of Brian.
Ooh, Brian.
Ryan hooking it up, joining the Patreon.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian, you are our hero for today. And maybe tomorrow. Maybe the next day. We're not sure yet. But
You can be like Brian.
you can. We'll tell you how at the end of the episode.
That's right.
You know what time it is?
What?
It's time for some evil facts.
Let's hear them.
Evil facts. Check this one out. For years, Ted Bundy believed that his biological mother was his sister.
That's weird.
It is weird. I don't even know how that's even possible. Like, oh, that's my sister. She's like 20 years older than me. I don't know. Pee Wee Gaskins. You remember Pee Wee Gaskins?
Yep.
One of the most prolific serial killers in South Carolina. He drove around in a hearse with a bumper sticker that read, "We haul anything, living or dead." Not a good look. Definitely not a good look. I got two more that I want to do for you today. Both of them are Jeffrey Dahmers. We did a Jeffrey Dahmer one last time. But this dude is a little bit on the weird side, so he's always got the cool facts. Jeffrey Dahmer gave the people in his apartment building sandwiches that could have possibly been made from his victim's flesh.
I don't know if I would ever take a sandwich from Jeffrey Dahmer.
There was people that did. Now just imagine now they're like, oh, dang. I knew that thing tasted a little goofy. Jeffrey Dahmer had a pretty crazy job at one time, too, that kind of makes Willy Wonka sound funny. He worked in a chocolate factory. Like Jeffrey Dahmer works in a chocolate factory. Some chocolate dipped flesh. And that is your evil facts for the day. We got a controversial kind of story today. I mean, I don't know if I want to call it controversial.
Wow.
It's kind of sad. It's going to be a sad story. I mean, anytime you talk about somebody getting murdered, it's sad. But
Right.
this is one of those cases where the situation of what happened is kind of wishy-washy. Like you'll see here once we dive into it. But to me, I think it's kind of a sad story. So when you guys are ready, we will discuss this young man. And I do say young man. So,
What's that?
so buckle up, Evil Mob, as we discuss Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips. Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips was born on March 17th, 1984 in Allentown, Pennsylvania to parents Steve and Melissa Phillips. If Josh Phillips had his choice, he would have probably picked a different father. His father, Steve, was an abusive man who was addicted to drugs and alcohol. So you can only imagine home life for this child.
Oh, yeah.
Josh and his mother, Melissa, lived in fear of Steve. Josh's father also had very strict rules that Josh had to obey in the home, including not having any other children in the house when he was not around. That rule was extremely particular to young girls, although Melissa nor Josh understood why Steve had such a dislike for young girls. I mean, can you imagine growing up and not being allowed to have any of your friends over?
Right. Well, Dustin never had friends growing up, so.
I mean, we had friends over at my house growing up all the time.
Oh, yeah.
When I was a kid. I mean, that was the spot. Like we had a big side yard,
Right.
and after school, it was like that's where we played football, like with everybody in the neighborhood, because we had like a big long side yard.
Yeah, my hometown, it was a small house, but we were sitting like on an acre. So same thing, the neighborhood would come over. We could play baseball in the one side of the yard because it was so long. So, yeah, it was good times.
And you have no,
Yeah. What about you,
you have
Dustin?
no stories about childhood.
I didn't have any friends.
I thought you said you had one.
One, but
Imaginary.
yeah.
We used to play inside under the sheets. But yeah, I mean, that would be rough not being able to have
Oh, I know.
any of your friends over.
Right.
Makes for a pretty lonely childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my kids now, they have their friends over at the house all the time. It's like it's like the cool little hangout. Of course, there's mornings that I wake up and my living room looks like the aftermath of Woodstock after a night of youth partying. Empty pop cans and Dorito bags all over the place.
Oh, you gotta love that.
You wake up like, who the hell are you? How did you get here?
Yeah. They're all laid sideways on the recliners. It's crazy. The Phillips family moved to Jacksonville, Florida when Josh was still young. Neighbors there described him as a quiet and friendly young man who was very likable. In school, he was described by his teachers as a popular student who didn't stand out, but that was fun and silly. And that's pretty good considering he had a crappy home life. One of Josh's friends in the neighborhood was a young girl who was 6 years younger than him, named Maddie Clifton. On November 3rd, 1998, 8-year-old Maddie Clifton came up missing. Panic took hold in the quiet neighborhood. It wasn't like Maddie to just disappear without anyone knowing where she would be. Maddie's disappearance was reported to the authorities around 5 p.m. Several volunteers joined with police to search for Maddie Clifton. 14-year-old Joshua Phillips joined the search. He helped hang flyers and knock on doors to find his young friend. Overall, around 400 volunteers were involved in the search for Maddie.
Wow.
A reward of $50,000 was offered to anyone who could provide the whereabouts of the young girl. That reward would double to $100,000 when nobody came forward. That's a lot of money for
it is.
For a missing person. I mean, that quick.
Right.
But then again, you got 400 people looking for her. That's a lot of people too.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, it's like the community's coming together to look for this little girl.
Yeah.
When the local police couldn't get any leads, the FBI joined the search. 6 days had passed since the disappearance of Maddie Clifton. Just imagine what her parents are going through there. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
6 days and you have no idea where your 8-year-old is. Like,
Right.
That would just be the worst possible feeling you could ever have in life, I think.
yeah. Because what do they say? Is that after 24 or 48 hours that it really starts to decline quickly on the?
I believe
chance of
it's
finding them.
48 hours. I may be wrong. Maybe that's why they call that show the first 48.
Ooh, actually, I think you are correct.
Well, that's like leads to murder, but
Did you just say that?
yeah.
Why? What was he supposed to say?
Because that was a gimme.
Yeah.
The first 48.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I mean, throw me a bone there.
Must be whenever they start the show and they say the most critical time is in the first 48 hours.
But that's to find leads on murder.
Right. I didn't know.
We're
if
talking about
kidnapping
missing
was the same,
It might be the same.
or kidnapping, or missing.
Isn't that less time?
That's why I was saying. I was like, is it 24
I
or
think
48?
it's 24.
I mean, if my 8-year-old goes missing, I think the first 10 minutes is like the most crucial.
Right. But
Like, we need to know now.
imagine how far you can be in 24 hours
It's a long
away
way.
from
Yeah.
where it could be anywhere. You could be anywhere.
You could be to Cali.
yeah.
That's a long drive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it takes 24 hours.
Is that what it is? I thought it was around there.
I think it's more than 24 to get to Cali from here.
Okay, Google it.
He will.
I mean, you
what
gotta put
part?
in traffic and
There is no traffic.
construction. There's construction
It's
everywhere.
all hills.
It's all hills,
It's just
all the way to California.
Hills,
huh?
all the way to California.
I'm in Arizona just going up these hills.
Across the Midwest.
On the 7th day of Maddie Clifton missing, Melissa Phillips entered her son Joshua's room to tidy up and noticed the waterbed he slept on appeared to be leaking. She also noticed a strong odor in the room. When she investigated a bit further, she found the body of 8-year-old Maddie Clifton under her son's bed. Melissa Phillips fled from the house and got the police, who were across the street at Maddie's home at the time. The body had been badly beaten and stabbed 11 times.
Wow.
Joshua Phillips was arrested at his school. He confessed to the murder within 2 hours.
And this kid's what, 14?
14 years old.
Wow.
Joshua Phillips explained that on November 3rd, Maddie had knocked on his door to see if he could come outside to play. Even though he was not supposed to have anyone over while his parents were away, Josh Phillips went outside to play with Maddie. While playing baseball, Josh accidentally hits Maddie in the eye with the ball, which caused a small cut. Maddie begins to bleed and scream in pain. Panic sets in for Josh Phillips. He knows he's not supposed to have anyone over, and now his father is going to surely find out that he disobeyed orders, and that's going to be bad news for him. Like, we've all done something as a kid where, like, let's say, I mean, it's not this extreme, but let's say you break something in the house and panic sets in, like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm going to get the belt
Plenty
when
of
Dad gets
times.
home.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
it's on. Now, it's different nowadays, like, because we're not allowed to whip our kids or anything.
Can't do anything.
Like, you have to, like, scold them.
Yeah.
Like,
Or however old they are, that's how long you put them in timeout.
yeah. Back in the day, like, when we got in trouble, you got whipped.
Right.
Now, granted, you know, Steve is probably a lot worse than what our parents were.
Oh, yeah.
I would say he's probably like 100 times worse than what our parents are.
Yeah.
But you know that feeling of when something goes wrong or you do something and you're like, oh, I'm in trouble now.
Yep.
You just know that sinking feeling in your gut, like, oh my God, there goes my Nintendo for a week.
Yeah.
There goes Super Mario Brothers.
That's why you got to do it early, so you have time to come up with a plan to fix whatever you messed up.
Well, this is a little bit more of an extreme situation.
Yeah.
Right.
We're dealing with a drunk drug addict who's very abusive to his wife and kid.
Imagine this though. He's more afraid of his dad than what's going to happen to him or what he did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As
That's
in,
crazy.
like, for what he did, as in hitting her in the eye with the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more of him panicking because he has somebody over at his house when his parents aren't home. Like, he knows that, I broke that rule.
Right.
So what does Josh do? Well, he drags Maddie Clifton into his house, where he hits her again and again with the baseball bat he had been playing with to get her to stop screaming. He then stuffs her under his bed. Steve Phillips comes home, and Josh spends a while talking to his dad before returning to his room. So just imagine, this kid just beat this girl, you know, what he thinks of, you know, he thinks he beat her to death with the ball bat.
Yeah.
And stuffed her under his bed, and then he's like out there chatting with his dad, like, yo, everything's good. Hey, hey, Pops, it's all good here. Well, he goes back to his room to find out that Maddie Clifton was not dead, but clinging to life instead, and she's moaning, like making this, you know, noise. She's making noise.
Right.
Again, panic sets in, because now Dad's home. And if she makes a noise, he's going to find out for sure.
Yeah.
Josh Phillips then takes the knife blade of a Leatherman tool. You know what a Leatherman tool is? You know, like those multi-tools. It's like pliers.
Oh, yeah.
And like pocket knife.
Like a Swiss Army knife?
Yeah, kind of. But it's like got pliers in it. So he takes this Leatherman tool, cuts her throat, and stabs her several times until she's dead.
Wow.
Now, when Maddie's body is found, her clothes from her lower body, her lower body's nude. Weird, right?
Yeah.
So Josh Phillips claims that was because when he was dragging her into the house, her clothes were pulled off. Prosecutors, however, believe that was not the case and that the murder was sexually motivated. They were told that Josh Phillips had actually talked to both Maddie Clifton and her older sister about sexual matters before. The autopsy, however, did not find any evidence of sexual assault. There also was a lack of dirt and sand on Maddie's body to prove that her clothes had come off while being dragged into the house. So everything's contradictive there.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
There also was no proof of blood in the backyard or on the baseball to verify Phillips' story of what had happened. So they don't even know if what he said was really what went on. On July 6th, 1999, Joshua Phillips was tried as an adult for the murder of Maddie Clifton. You know, that's a little bit on the rough side.
Yeah.
He's a kid.
Right.
I mean, but he's made an adult mistake.
That he did.
For Christ's sakes, he slit her throat.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a kid thing.
No.
But you got to think that's the controversy of this case. I mean, we'll talk about it a little more here in a second, but now we've talked about some pretty bad lawyers on this show, and you know what I mean? Like, we've talked about the guys that you don't want to hire if you're ever in trouble with the law.
Yep.
Like, we've had some bad ones. And it just so happens that Josh Phillips ends up with a pretty bad one to add to our Hall of Shame.
Oh, nice.
His defense attorney never once questioned him about what had actually happened, and would only show up at the prison where Joshua was being held to play chess with him.
What?
Yeah, he's like, showed up. You know, this kid's in prison right now, being held in prison for murder. I mean, he's going on trial for murder. His lawyer shows up, doesn't ask him anything about what happened. Nothing about the case. Nothing to try and build a case. He shows up and is like, you guys want to play some chess? I mean,
That's bad.
that's rough. And this lawyer even convinces the mom and the dad, like, oh, we're not even going to call him up to testify. We're going to base the defense off something else.
I'm guessing that was a lie.
Well, it's just bad. It's absolutely horrible defense tactics. He called 0 witnesses to testify on Josh's behalf and based his whole defense on the closing argument, where he stated that what had happened was, quote, an act that began as an accident and deteriorated through panic that bordered on madness. The trial lasted only 2 days, mostly because there was no defense.
Yeah.
It was just the prosecution out there
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, the defense guy's like, oh, we rest. We rest. You know what I mean? Like, they're probably bringing up witnesses, and this guy's not cross-examining nothing. He's like, oh, we're good. We're good. We're going to base all our stuff on me saying one thing at the end.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, I'm trying to defend a 14-year-old kid, you know, to at least get him a chance at life.
Right.
You know, of having a life outside of prison.
Right.
And my whole tactic is to let you bury him with evidence, bury him with witnesses, and then for me to go, well, it was just because he panicked.
Yeah, right.
Which, I mean, is, it does seem to be true if what had happened is actually what he said happened, with the ball hitting her, panic. Now, if he actually sexually, it was a sexually motivated crime, it's a different story.
Oh, yeah.
But
that's why if I ever do anything bad, I'm getting Jose Baez
as your attorney?
Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
I ain't got no money, but he's gonna be mine.
What's the dude's name that did is it Berkowitz? What's the guy from the OJ trial? Big dude.
Oh, I can't remember.
What? Which one?
Dirkovich. Something.
Oh, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Alan Dirkowitz.
Oh, Dirkowitz.
Dirkowitz. Yeah, that's who you get. I mean, if you can get OJ off of murder, that's the dude to have.
Hey, Jose Baez got Casey Anthony off.
Yeah,
that's a sad case.
It is.
Just don't hire any of the bad lawyers that we've talked about on this show, or you just end up playing chess in prison.
Checkmate.
Oh.
So the jury deliberated, after this 2-day trial, the jury deliberated for only 2 hours before coming back with a guilty verdict. Joshua Phillips was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
14?
He was 15 years old when he was sentenced. Like, he just turned 15. 15 years old, and they come and say, hey, guess what? You going to prison for the rest of your life, and there ain't no chance you're ever getting out.
Brutal.
And the scary thing is, the only reason he didn't face the death penalty was because he was under 16 years old.
Wow.
The law at the time in in that area was 16 years old.
That's crazy.
For the death penalty. Now, I mean, imagine that if he had to face the death penalty, and his lawyer's like, "We're good. We've been playing chess like maniacs. Sorry about you getting ready to die, son." Now, there's tons of appeals that happened throughout the year after this. For example, in 2002, the Florida 2nd District Court of Appeal, they ended up upholding his conviction. And then his mom in 2004 tries to get a new trial for her son. And then you got like a couple years later, Supreme Court of Florida sets a hearing to discuss whether he's going to receive a new trial. And basically, it's all, every time they go for a new trial, it's shot down until there was a breakthrough in 2012 with the Supreme Court of the United States in a case called Miller versus Alabama that ruled that sentencing juveniles to mandatory life in prison without parole was unconstitutional. So with that breakthrough, they go again, Phillips' attorneys, who hopefully he has changed by this time, goes and files for a resentencing hearing. In September of 2016, Phillips' attorneys successfully appealed the court, and he was granted a new sentencing hearing, which was held in June of 2017. At the hearing, Clifton's mother, Maddie's mother, testifies and requested that Josh's sentence be upheld. She's like, not happening.
Can't blame her.
Right.
In November of 2017, Josh Phillips was resentenced to life in prison, but is eligible for resentencing again in 2023. In December of 2019, the Florida 1st District Court of Appeal upheld the life sentence again, saying it will be reviewed again and could be modified in 2023 based on demonstrated maturity and rehabilitation.
That's a law that I don't understand, because it's like, oh, it's unconstitutional to send somebody under a certain age to life in prison. But we're going to give you a resentencing hearing, but we're going to sentence you to the same shit. Like, it makes no sense. Like, what's the point in even doing it?
Well, in June of 2020, that's the most recent thing, he appealed to the Supreme Court of Florida yet again, who turned down his request, and they didn't explain reasons why, because they don't have to. Just like, no, ain't gonna do it.
No thanks.
But I mean, prison itself for old Josh Phillips was actually, a changing experience for him, I guess. I mean, he completed his GED in prison, and check this out, takes some college classes by correspondence, and works as a paralegal in prison, assisting other inmates with their appeals, and also works as a tutor for inmates.
Wow.
Dang.
He also plays guitar in a band and participates in Christian religious services.
Here's a question for you both. What would a prison band be called?
The Jailbirds.
What do you got?
I don't even know. That one's good right there.
That is a good one.
What do you got?
I'm going with the cheek spreaders.
Cheek slaps. Cheek spreaders. Now, over the years, Joshua Phillips was asked if he would write a letter of apology to Maddie Clifton's family, apologizing for what he did. Saying, you need to apologize for what you did if you want a chance of parole, apparently, or of at least of a resentencing. And he's always declined to do it, saying that they deserved an apology from him in person, so that they could see in person that he was actually sincere. Maddie's mother, however, said she had no interest in talking to Josh Phillips.
Well, I don't blame her.
She's like, no, I don't have nothing to say to this.
And that probably makes him look bad. You know, to the like parole board or whatever.
That he won't write the letter?
He won't write the letter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean. But like I said, the controversy for me in this case is if it was because he was panicked, if it was because he was in fear of his father.
Yeah.
I mean, murder is murder. You need punished.
Yep.
But if that is the true scenario of this case, it's actually a sad thing.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I mean, that this kid was so afraid of his dad that he ends up murdering an 8-year-old girl so he doesn't get in trouble.
Right. Yeah. Terrible.
Then the other side of it is, if he's lying his ass off, he deserves to stay in prison for the rest of his life.
True.
But that is the story of Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips.
His name is stupid.
That is a long ass name. Joshua Earl Patrick Phillips.
Good deal.
What you got?
All right. Just the usual. If you haven't done so, go to our Facebook page, give us a like. Any comments, questions, ideas, you can email us at eviltransgression@gmail.com. You can also find those links where, Dustin?
At eviltransgression.com. And you can also buy a hat.
Yes, finally.
If you would like to buy a hat.
Definitely buy a hat.
A lot of you asked me about hats.
So buy them.
So buy them. Or,
We like to call it pre-order your hat.
whatever. Same deal.
Josh is wearing his.
I am.
Yeah.
Of course, Dustin's not, though.
I am wearing mine.
Whatever. But you can also check out our Patreon, all that good stuff. So leave us a tip, a little donation,
Little tip jar? Tip jar love?
Tippity tip tip.
So then we can keep putting stuff out for you.
That's right.
Buy our shirts. We've got some merch on eviltransgression.com.
We do.
Boom.
You need to be a little more specific though on these hats. Like when you go to eviltransgression.com, you depending on whether you're on your phone or on a PC.
Yeah.
If you're on a PC, you go to the more button at the top. It'll say more with the arrow down. Click it. It says hat pre-order.
Yep.
If you're on your mobile phone, up on the upper left-hand side of your screen when you go to the page, you got the 3 bars, the menu bars.
Yes.
Click that and boom, hat pre-order there.
Boom, shakalaka.
When you pre-order your hat, make sure you leave your address and which color you want. Now, Dustin, I think you need to make sure that people know what these hats look like. You have pictures, and I don't think you have any up yet.
I thought I put them up.
Failure.
I thought I put them up on Facebook. I could be wrong.
I'll double check it.
Yeah, add them to the page.
So, yeah, just make sure you leave which one you want and which your address is.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, Dustin thinks that you bought the hat for him. And he'll have like 9 hats he never wears. So with that being said, you guys are all good.
Oh, I'm good.
Yep.
Well, until next time.
See ya.
See ya.
Peace.